Hello everyone, welcome back to Blockman editor tutorial. In these videos, we will give you a complete introduction to the Blockman editor. In the game, we will often use a variety of items. For example, a medical kit, a grenade. So in the editor, how to make an item. Next, let's learn together. Enter the editor and select item in the game component view. Click the Create Item button, or the New button below to create a new item template. Give the new item template a name and click to confirm. At this time, the properties of the new item template will appear in the Properties view on the right. First, let's introduce its basic properties. For the newly created item template, we need to assign it an item model and item icon. The item model is a mesh model. We can download one from the store. After the download is complete, we can drag and drop the downloaded mesh model into the preview box of the item model. You can also click the Select button of the preview box to select a mesh model. The item icon should be an image in PNG format. Note that the width and height of the selected image are required to be a multiple of 32. We have got a picture ready here, we can use it directly. Item stack quantity refers to the maximum number of the same item that can be placed in a grid in a backpack or an item slot. For example, if we fill in 2 and then place some items in the scene, then click Run, we control the character to pick up these items. You can see that there are only 2 items in each slot in the player's item slot. When we check items can be discarded, we can long press the selected items to drop them into the scene. When we check items can be dropped, if the player dies, the item from the player's backpack will drop into the scene. If can be used as checked, when the player is holding the item, they can use the item by long pressing the screen. For save item, if we check this property, only when we check data save in the basic settings from the game settings, and the save item property work. The function of save item is to record the data of the items owned by the player in game. When the player logs into the same game again, the items with save item property checked will appear in the backpack. There are 3 types of items, which are gear, handheld, and consume. Let's first look at the items of the type gear. If the item is a gear, then we first need to select a gear slot to wear the item. The player character has a total of 4 gear slots, including helmet, clothes, pants, and shoes. They correspond to gear slot 1, gear slot 2, gear slot 3, and gear slot 4 respectively. Note that when you want to use the gear slot function, you need to add the gear slot in the battle properties of the entity. After we put on the gear, if we want the appearance of the player character to change as well, we need to set the appearance group name, and appearance mutual exclusion group. These 2 properties correspond to the appearance groups under the character appearance. Select an actor file in the Assets view and double-click the file to open the actor editor. The appearance groups are displayed under the appearance list. We have a TNT group prepared in advance, let's select it. In the Properties view on the right, you can see that there are appearance group name and mutually exclusive name. They are what we need, and we will fill them in the appearance group name, and appearance mutual exclusion group in the properties of the gear items respectively. We will explain more about the actor editor in subsequent videos. If we design gear items with skills, at this time, we can use the property of gear skill. Click the Add button on the right, the skill selection button will appear. Click this button, you can select the existing skills. If there is no skill, we need to create a new skill. Check out subsequent tutorials for more about the skills. If a gear item has multiple skills, you only need to click the Add button multiple times, and then select the corresponding skills. If you want to delete a skill, you can click the menu button to the right of the skill selection button, and then operate in the small pop-up window. The equipment buff is pretty similar to the gear skill. If we want to trigger a buff when putting on a gear item, we can set it here. Click the buff selection button to select the currently existing buff. If there is no buff, we need to create a new buff. We will explain more about buff in subsequent courses. Next, let's take a look at the handheld items. Select handheld in the item type property. You can see that the content of the properties below has changed. The first is the as currency. If we check this option, then this item can be used as a currency of the current game, and the item currency can be used to purchase goods in the G-Cube shop. Handhold position refers to where the item will appear on the entity character when the item is held. We can choose a suitable location according to the needs of the game. As for the skill and buff, they are the same as the gear skill and equipment buff of the previous gear type items, and will not be introduced here. Finally, let's take a look at what is a consume. In-game, items such as health bottles, medical kits are all consumable items. When the entity character uses the consumable item, we can set buffs available for the entity character here. For some continuous buffs, we can also set the duration of the buff. There are also two functions in the item type, namely trap and container. When the trap is checked, the item will not be put into the player's backpack, and when the player tries to put the item into the backpack, the trap event will be triggered. Using this option, we can design some trap items to enrich the gameplay, and add more fun to the game. For the container, you can see it as the magazine of the firearm. When we enable this function, we can add fillers to the container, such as bullets, arrows, etc. The default number of fillers refers to the number of the initial fillers inside the container, similar to the number of bullets in the magazine when you get it. Maximum number of fillers refers to the maximum amount the container can hold, similar to the maximum number of bullets a magazine can hold. Item name refers to the fillers and is usually a type of gear. Normally, only gears like firearms will use the container function. If you want the amount of fillers to decrease along with the skill release, you also need to set skill consumption. For example, we can enable the container function for a gun, and attach the shooting skill to the gun. Then click on Skills in the Game Components view and find Shooting. On the Properties view on the right, select Skill Consumption, then expand Container Depletion and check Enable. Once it's set, when we shoot, in other words, when we release the shooting skill, the number of fillers on the UI icon in the item bar will be reduced. Let's click Run to see the effect. Last but not the least, we can also perform edit events on items to achieve more complex game effects. Regarding the events of items, you can find more about them in subsequent videos. That's all for this video. We hope it can help you on your way to a great creator. If you want to know more about the editor, you can comment below the video or post on the official forum. See you in the next video.